Hi, I'm Desiree Butler.
And I'm Justin Butler.
And I guess our journey began shortly after COVID in 2021 when we bought our vacation home down here in Sarasota, Florida. Bought it unfurnished and immediately needed help getting it together, getting it furnished, getting it livable, and that's how we found Miss Amber. I found Grayson Interiors on house.com. I was scanning through the different interior designers, looking at their homes and the different spaces. What attracted me to Grayson was the types of homes that she decorated. I was feeling self-conscious, like I know we don't have a mansion, but somebody will work with us. We can find some kind of designer for our modest home. And what I noticed about Grayson, they were a lot of builder grade homes,
Sure.
Stock homes that she transformed into just such beautiful spaces, and it felt accessible. It didn't feel like these were mansions and I'd be working with some designer that would make me feel uncomfortable or wouldn't be comfortable working with what I consider to be our modest home. But she still transformed them into just glamorous, glitzy, amazing spaces.
I think that's kind of what I didn't participate much in the research and the search itself, but once Desiree brought Grayson to me, I said, oh, this all makes sense. These are the size of homes, these are the type of homes. Our neighborhood was still somewhat under construction, and so a lot of the homes are kind of going up. It didn't have a lot of character to them, and a lot of what I was seeing in the pictures and images and videos brought that character in homes that were similarly situated as ours.
Well, I think we knew right away that we did not buy a furnished home. We looked at some homes that were fully furnished, and I think one of those was pretty much the inspiration for the feel and the beachy kind of beach home vibe we were going for. But we had to start from scratch. The house was empty. We knew we needed everything from bedding to linens to chairs, stools, all of the things. And so knowing we needed to completely furnish the home, but I was looking for someone who was not just going to put furniture in, but was going to create a theme, create a vibe, and do the decor, like the soft things, the plants, the mirrors on the walls, the curtains, the drapes. And I assumed that's what we were going to get with the first designer we worked with. That didn't necessarily work out. That's not what we ended up with, but that's what I came into it looking for. We were definitely on a time crunch because we bought the house in November. We wanted to start enjoying it come Christmas, the holidays. It was our intention to come down here as much as we could. Every time our kids were out of school, we planned to be down here. So we knew we had to get furniture quickly. And I remember I reached out to Amber, and it was, I guess it was November. She was like, oh, I'm not able to start any new projects until February. And I was like, no way, I can't wait to, oh, absolutely not. We're gonna have to keep on moving. And I found the lady who was like, oh, that's ridiculous. It shouldn't take to February. We can get this done. But keep in mind, this was still in COVID. So there were supply chain issues. It was hard to get furniture. The housing market was going crazy. Everybody's buying. So it was kind of a tight sort of market. But we went with this lady, and she was great. I'm not gonna lie, she was great. She captured our plan. She got our aesthetic. But then when it came time to actually get the furniture, it literally took months. And I don't think we had everything in place until well after February.
Well, yeah, it was summertime at the earliest, yeah.
Right, and here Amber was saying she couldn't start to February, and maybe that was more realistic. It was also, I was disappointed that she didn't do the soft touches and the decor. She really only did the furniture, but it was my understanding she was going to do all of that. So it was a little disappointing. There was that miscommunication on what the services really entailed. But I mean, she came in, it was a mother-daughter duo, and what I picked up on, I would say something, she didn't quite get it, but her daughter would translate, would get the vision. So I liked that they worked together that way, but that should have been a red flag that the primary designer wasn't really understanding my perspective or understanding my style and what I was trying to put together. But when you're kind of you're in a crunch, you want things done quickly, you want to be in your home, you kind of make decisions that maybe aren't well thought out.
And we had never furnished a home from the ground up, right? So even when you are starting out from college and you go in your apartment and then you go into your new home and all these sort of things and you get married, whatever, you're not furnishing from the ground up. So we had to buy silverware and glasses and just all of those sorts of things. And so it was a process. And I think that logical process from A to B to C could have been a little sharper and a little clearer. I also think part of the difference is our primary home was a very traditional home.
Yeah.
So colonial, formal living, and we wanted something that was a polar opposite of what we were living in primarily. And then to bring that strategy or that vision home, we didn't necessarily know how to articulate it. And so being able to pull those things out of us and make sure that it turned into a home that we wanted it to be, there could have been, I think, maybe a little bit more work that was done there.
Do you think we were on the same page with what we wanted the design, what we wanted it to look and feel like, or did you just follow my lead and you're like, okay, this works?
Yeah, I followed lead. I just knew I wanted to come here and feel different than my primary home, right? I wanted just a true vacation, a true escape, not feel like I'm just replicating what I had back home. What that looked like, what that meant, how it felt, TBD, but that's a broad vision to give someone.
Well, the timing, first of all, had I went with you initially, we would have probably finished around the same time and not had to do duplicative work, because to some degree you had to come in and finish, but there were furniture pieces that just didn't work. The scale was off. It just didn't really fill the room, and that was disappointing as well, that our previous designer didn't do measurements well. She completely misjudged so many things, and we had to just work with it. Simple things, a chair, does it fit in the size bedroom that we have? Then we ended up with expensive pieces that were not in the right places. Like this beautiful, lovely side chair now is stuck in our bedroom where it was supposed to be featured here in the living room, things like that. And then our TV stands, none of them were quite the right size piece of furniture for the size of the TVs. So things like that.
And that happened because of a lack of technology and software, right? So when you think about this, when I compare and contrast, and you have a system and a platform that will go in and put things, plot them appropriately, that didn't occur, right? So she came in with a tape measure, drew it out, said, okay, I got 36 inches here, I got 6 inches here, but didn't really account for that's only gonna leave me 4 inches to walk through, right? So I think that was a defining piece, is an appreciation for the technology underneath that gives a real indication for what it is we're going to get or not. And that takes longer, it's more intensive, but it's more accurate at the end of the day.
And what was the platform? I don't know the platform that you used, but we could see 3D renderings, and that made a difference. And you go, okay, you get my vision. We understand where things are going to be. But there was also the value mismatch. We weren't paying attention to the individual prices. Maybe we were good with the overall budget. And then we looked at some of the details. We had this side-in book table that was like $1,000. And like, we would have never allocated that much money to this type of furniture. We could have reallocated it differently.
Yep.
But then at the end of the day, that was it. It's like she sort of fell off. She got the furniture in. There were things that were kind of off. We weren't, there were some pieces that weren't right. And we had a little bit of that friction, and she almost ghosted us. Like, okay, the job is done. And we're like, well, we never got to the decor. What about the wall coverings? And it just didn't end on a good note. There was no direct confrontation or conflict. She just kind of fizzled away, and the project was not done.
Right.
And maybe I can talk a bit about some of the scenarios we had. So the pieces that she bought that did not fit the space, she just put it upon herself to put them in my daughter's bedroom. But we're working remotely, so we're still in Minneapolis. We're not here. So by the time we'd come to see it, it was too late. She was like, oh, well, the return period has expired. So we were kind of stuck with her mistakes, and that didn't feel good. And then there were a couple pieces of furniture that were just poor quality. And she did return one, and we found our own pieces, like this beautiful armoire over here. We picked that out on our own, just out shopping. The piece she brought in was really poor quality, and it felt as though she didn't inspect it. She should have picked up on the fact that the doors were kind of off and it was actually broken. But that was the dynamic of us not being here and having to really trust her judgment, and that's where it didn't always work out well.
I also think that she may have looked at it as a vacation home, and she may have thought of it as a short-term rental. And the pieces that she was selecting, the overall budget, and maybe a lack of decor was focused on a short-term rental, which was not what we were aiming for at all, because this home is just for us. And so I think there was a mixture of, well, let me just get it furnished, but then let me get it on the market, and that really wasn't what it was. And so I think the difference in the process is your discovery phase. You're pretty clear up front, like there's a longer discovery phase. And my guess is that people may not understand or appreciate what it takes to actually pull the vision out. I don't know that we understood it fully either, but we appreciate it on the back end.
Yeah.
And so I think doing that upfront work makes everything more accurate on the back end, right? It doesn't make it faster. That's not the point. The point is not to make it faster. The point is to get it done right. And I think that's one of the key differences between the two processes.
And that's what we had to kind of come to the realization of. It's not going to be a quick process. And I think we probably didn't have that appreciation coming in when we first started, but now we totally understand. And having worked with your company twice, we knew what we were getting. We knew, okay, be patient, trust the process. We, I think, had better clarity on how things will come together. So even better experience the second time around, because if you think about it, the first time, Amber had to do someone else's rework.
Right.
But she did it exceptionally well. I think the way she brought in pieces really blended with what the first designer started. In the end, really was the vision we were looking for. It gave us that beachy, coastal feel that we were going for.
Yeah, and it was a combination of the previous designer, and there's things in this house that are our choices as well, right? The little cabinet over here.
Yes.
And so not all of it is cohesive.
But she respected
I think,
our pieces, and she incorporated our pieces. Maybe it wasn't going to go right here on this wall where I may have initially thought, but she respected that there were pieces we really liked, and she incorporated them appropriately. And that happened in both houses. She was very... Yeah.
And things that I think from a decor and design perspective might be in conflict. So we had an original set of bar stools, and they don't necessarily go from a design aesthetic, but we had small kids and all those sorts of things. And so it was kind of thinking through what worked in that element. So the longevity of the pieces, the decor, but then also the livability of all of the pieces kind of working together.
I don't even think we were done our project here, and Justin was already, we need to bring Amber to do our house in Minnesota. We can have her do this. And so we were already thinking about it before we had even finished. And it's funny, there'd be days Justin would just wake up. He'd be looking at new homes that we had not purchased, and he would be envisioning how Amber could come in and she could design this next house. Look at this house. So I went through months of Justin, my bridezilla, sharing these grandiose visions he had of the home we did not own, and how Amber could come in and decor it for us.
Well, I think that the trust, for me, when you go through one project, then you know what you have an outcome, right? And at the end of the day, it was more than what we expected. So I don't know if I even told her, but I was in Tampa for my fraternity's conclave about an hour away. The house was finished. No one had seen it yet. So I actually snuck down and stayed the night down here so that I could see the finished product before everybody else. And so, but I think ultimately when I walked in the door, I felt like the home that we had had for almost 2 years had been transformed. It got to a point where that's what I was looking for. That's what I wanted, that kind of coastal escape. And so I think the combination of being able to take hodgepodge of someone else's work, our inputs and our desires, and then coming up with a cohesive look and feel that I was comfortable with, that built immediate trust that if we did another project, that we would end up in a very similar place. Different project, different look, different feel, but it's still a level of contentment with the end result. So I would say one, we've done now 2 projects, a brand new home and a remodel or a redesign of this one. And I think when we set out to complete the project, I just think that at the end of the day, it meets our expectations more so than we were planning, right? So for me, I walk into this home, I walk into our primary home, and I am blown away by what I see. It's comfort, for me, it is the finished product that I was looking for, but then there was added touches. There's not just the design, but the decor elements really work together, I think, in a way that is timeless and something that I won't have to come back in and redo in 2 years or something along those lines. So I think it was taking elements of this home and that home, our styles, our different perspectives, because Desiree and I are 2 different people when it comes to some of these decor elements. And so the abstract versus the modern versus the traditional, and it all kind of blended well together. And so for me, I think it was just taking all of these different styles and inputs and leading to a cohesive end result was what was a big deal for me.
What I like most about this house were the custom pieces Amber commissioned for us. The artwork on the wall, it's giving you waves and beaches without being a picture of the beach, and that's what I really enjoyed. You're getting the theme and the feel of movement and water and ocean, and it's totally customized. Like, she designed this for us, so having that almost artwork, essentially artwork in our home that's just for us, it reflects this house. That's what I love most about it. Yeah. What I love about our Minnesota house is how Amber pushed us in a whole different direction. I had to trust her vision of repurposing our dining room to be a sitting room, like our formal dining room in the front of the home. I was really nervous, like, Amber, I don't know if this is going to work, so let's keep things a way that we can push it back if need be, if I didn't like the outcome. But I love it. I love my front sitting room. I love the feel of it. She made it into my personal space with my wine bar, and I would have never envisioned that space that way. And now that we've lived in it, we've had our Thanksgiving dinners, and we are using the home, it totally makes sense to have flipped the formal dining room and the kitchen sitting room, and I absolutely love it. Love that I trusted you to do that. So had I not brought in Amber, I would have had to put together the home myself. And I think I have a decent sense of style and creativity, but that stress, that mental stress of imperfectionism, of getting it just right and doing every element, there is no way I could have done that for this home, let alone a full house redo that she did for us in Minnesota. So just that investment is worth the peace of mind and the stress and just actually having a complete project. Me, myself, I would not have been able to completely pull it all together. The little touches, the soft touches. So you need a professional for that. And now I feel like I have a professional home. I have a fully adult home. I have essentially the home of my dreams that I could not have pulled together myself.
Someone working with Grayson. I would say, just as your social media says, trust the process. Trust the process, allow yourself time and flexibility and candor. And so I think we've done 2 projects now, and I think the last project was probably maybe more inclusive and a more difficult project. We were moving from an executive home to a luxury home, but we were starting from a place that the home had some decor. We were getting rid of old furniture, repurposing some rooms, and all these sorts of things. And so we had to remain open to the concepts that were being put out, and making sure that we were very clear with ourselves first what we wanted, and then being able to communicate that adequately to Amber. So I think trusting the process, ensuring that you have the time that it takes to dedicate to the overall project. It's not going to be a quick process, but it shouldn't be. You're going to live with this home for years, and so then taking a few months to make sure that it's designed appropriately seems to be an equal trade-off. And so making sure that you can get the right strategy, the right placement, the right decor, the right design, so that everyone is happy. And I think one of the critical things that Grayson did for us is, as we were moving from our previous home to our new home, there were 2 visits. And so Amber and team got an opportunity to see our existing home, how we lived in it, the furniture and the decor, and then toured our new home empty, and was able to really envision that and walk us through. And so I think just from our situation may have been unique, moving from one home to another, but being able to understand how we live in a home and then how we're going to use the new home really, I think, brought home some more clarity in this particular project. So I think just trust the process, give yourself some time, and make sure that there's plenty of in-home visits and communication on how you're going to live in the home.
It felt less like working with a designer and more like working with someone who really cared about creating a vision for your home. And it helped that this is also my soror, so I felt taken care of. This is my sister. She's going to make sure things are right.